Hello, everybody. It is Karen Moore again with Handouts, and I am so excited to be with you today. So excited to have my guest, Rob Jolles, with me. It just a quick little side note. I met Rob through meetup.com. He runs a wonderful meetup group for podcasters. And as you know, I'm brand new to podcasting. So I am learning from a master. And I am so excited that I scored an interview with the master himself. So I will let Rob introduce himself.
Okay, thank you. And welcome to the podcast party. I will tell you that I'm only a couple of years ahead of you. I'm 3 years in, 225 podcasts, and I've fallen in love with it. And so I enjoy the meetup. I'm actually a professional speaker. I've been on the road close to 40 years. I write books. I deliver seminars. I've got almost 3 million miles in the air in my career going all over the world. And it's just been a natural step for me to say, well, I've got all this information and I have all these people that have fascinating stories. I'd like to hear some of them. So that's what got me into podcasting. But my day job is speaking professionally and just running seminars and workshops. If you go into a Marriott hotel and you see some knucklehead on a stage with a mic around his neck yapping, that's me. That's what I do.
That is awesome. No, it's interesting to hear you say that because I, as a business strategist, I've consulted small business owners and entrepreneurs who have a proven business model. They are subject matter experts, so to speak, in what they do, and have a proven idea that they've been running with for a while, but need some support along the way. It's kind of how I came up with the name Handouts for my podcast. Handouts is supporting material, and this is meant to give entrepreneurs support as they journey along in the entrepreneurial world. One of my clients actually had been in his field for 20 something years, designed a business around his former career, but then told me that he wanted to step out and do public speaking. I couldn't really see the connection between what he did, which was he was a former police officer. He developed courses to help aspiring police officers get into the academy. And I thought, well, what's he going to do public speaking about? So my first question to you is, how do you know when you have something of value? And how do you know when you have enough value to step out and do it as a public speaking, gig?
Yeah. Well, the value part is the burn in the belly, as I call it. It's sort of like, I often think, and I help people in career transition, that frequently you don't find a career, it finds you. And so I'll go back to your example with this police officer. I know the answer to his question. How one connects to the other. He's had a career, a very interesting career, would be my guess, if he's been in it long enough. And he's in a position where he wants to talk about it. He wants to share the highs and lows. He wants to share the days he was frightened, the days that made him tear up because they were so beautiful. He wants to go onto a stage. He wants to share that and teach people the lessons that he's learned so that they don't make some of the mistakes, so they can enjoy some of the experiences that he had. So one, that's why people who could catch butterflies for a living sometimes want to be speakers, because they want to share their experience. How do you know? That's the burn. I think for me, it's, professional speaking it's a career that most of the universities don't even know exists. I'm actually going to be speaking at a university soon. It's the first time in 40 years I've been asked to speak about it. I have no idea why the universities don't pay attention to corporate training and professional speaking. They have communications departments and they teach teachers, but this is a profession that I'm not the only guy that does this. It's a profession that most people don't know about. And like the example, they just wake up one day and go, I want to step on that Marriott ballroom stage. I probably won't be great at it at first, but I want to get great at it. And that's where that profession or this skill set begins to find us. And one last thing, just for anybody who's listening, I believe truly that anybody can learn to speak and speak professionally. There's just process moves involved, but there is no style that we have to follow. So some people are funny and some are cerebral and some are analytical, but if you're the best analytical, you'll be a great speaker. You just have to commit to who you are.
That's interesting. That's an interesting response. And interesting that you're going to a university to talk about it. Are they inviting you there for the purpose of like what's the purpose behind that? Is it to kind of educate them on, hey, this is a field you need to be aware of? Is it to educate the faculty or be more of a presenter and speaker to students?
Yeah, the faculty's a whole nother problem. It's career day, and
Oh,
they want to hear about this career. And I'm telling you in advance, I'm going to light up that room. I don't mean to. I guess I do mean to sound cocky. I guess I know
yes.
that sounds arrogant, but I mean, can you imagine being sitting there, trying to figure
Mhm.
out what you want to do, and not knowing that there is a career path out there for people to have truly one of the most exciting professions on the planet. Because I've sold for New York Life Insurance, I sold for Xerox, I was a trainer for Xerox. That's where I got a taste of it. And then I stepped on a stage on my own and went, oh, this tastes much better. Sort of like
Oh,
running a 10K race and then running a marathon. It was like, oh, there's more of a high to this. And
yes.
I just know that's going to be some students out there that are going to, particularly the ones that like to act, the ones that want
Mm,
to perform. This is a
mm.
profession that really attracts performers because we get kind of a performance fix from it. So, but it's a career day. That's why I'm coming out there.
Okay. Okay. All right. So next natural question is if this is a worthy career field, right? And if it's something that you have to, kind of work at, and
Hmm.
come up with a process or a model that works for you, I would imagine that much like the business world, where we hear those stats that, there's a percentage of businesses that don't make it beyond the first 5 years, and 50% of business may end up failing before becoming a success. What gives you staying power? I was going to say inspiring entrepreneurs, what should aspiring speakers keep in mind in order to have staying power? Because you
Yeah.
could start, but that doesn't mean you're going to be
Yeah,
great at it or
yeah.
get to
No,
actually
it's a
have a
great
long career
question.
field in it.
It's a great question. In April, I will celebrate 30 years of being a
Mm,
professional speaker and an entrepreneur. I think the questions actually that you asked fits both categories, by the way. You know, there is no guarantee. Not everybody has
yeah,
the stomach to be an entrepreneur. Let's leave professional speaking for a second. That's just my chosen entrepreneurial avenue.
right.
But I tell you, when I was the corporate guy, at Xerox, minding my own business, but I had a dream, and I just decided that fear wasn't going to hold me back, and I also
Yes.
decided that if I spend 1 year at this and give it the best year I can at it, if I fail, I still won't have failed because, in a sense, I'll have scratched an itch. I'll go back to that cubicle at Xerox or wherever I was coming from, and I won't be haunted by the thought that what if I had tried? What if I had given it one honest try and effort? So we don't just leave and go starting professions, but that's why I look at entrepreneurs and I smile and I go, oh, you can't lose. If nothing else, you're going to scratch an itch and you might just wake up, learn a few things, and realize that, like I have, you wake up one day, you're looking at 30 years, and you're thinking, the best 30 years professionally of my life.
That's true. That's true. So it's a success even if you fail, right?
Yes, I do. I think that, there's a movie out there. I'm a big proponent of this movie, and I'll bet you've never heard of it. It came out in 93. Meryl Streep's in it, but most people have never heard of it. It's a movie called Defending Your Life. Have you ever heard of that movie?
I haven't.
I rest my case. It's a story. It's a comedy by Albert Brooks. Wrote it, directed, stars in it with Meryl Streep, and it deals with a person at the very first 5 minutes who dies. It's a comedy. It's a romantic comedy, so I'm not getting too heavy
Okay.
with you. Don't worry. But the movie takes off from there, and you go to a place, and it looks like Disneyland almost. You wear a tunic, and you
Mm.
have a defender and a prosecutor, and they are looking at your life to figure out, do you move forward through the universe or do you go back and try it again? But here's the interesting part. So, what's the criteria that this writer came up with? And the criteria that they were analyzing was, did fear hold you back in your life?
Oh,
Or
wow.
were you able to overcome your fear? And the prosecutor brings up times where you pulled back because you were afraid. And the
Oh,
defender brings back items where you went full forward in there, didn't know whether you were going to be successful or not, but you made a decision to not let fear hold you back. And if you think about that right now, everybody who identifies with that moment identifies with it as some of the greatest moments of our life when we were afraid, but we went in anyway. Great movie.
Defining moments. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna have to write that down.
Defending
Really
your
quick.
life. Defending your life. Albert Brooks,
Defending
Meryl
my
Streep. I still think it holds up. And it's very funny. There's some wonderful moments in there.
man. That sounds inspiring. All right. So you said you come to a moment where you decide if you're going to go full forward. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a softball here because I did read through your website and saw that you offer coaching 101. Business coach. That could be a way to ensure that you're moving full forward, right? You're putting your best foot forward.
Mhm.
What would be the value of getting a coach if you want to step out and do public speaking?
Yeah. Well, it's going to shorten the learning curve. And
Yeah.
I would say, and again, I'm not here to push my services. I would say if you wanted to step out and do anything that requires a learning curve, why not? I work with a lot of authors, for instance. I'm not a genius at flushing out manuscripts. I'm not bad at it. I think my biggest resource is I'm an accountability partner. I'm the guy that kind of says, how we doing? Did you get me those 10 pages this week? And if you don't have an accountability partner or somebody to bounce ideas off of, how do we get smarter? So I'm not pushing Jolles services. I actually became a business coach just because I had so many clients after I'd speak professionally who would say, can you coach me?
Help
And
me.
I'd say, no, I can't. And so now begrudgingly, I'll do it. Okay. How's that for a marketing pitch?
You
But,
got to spread the wealth. You got to spread that
well, I
knowledge.
make my living on this stage. But
Yeah.
to answer your question clearly, I think it's a smart idea for people to find that right fit. Just because, I don't know if it's a question you've got lined up, but feel free to ask me what my 3 biggest mistakes were or whatever. I don't even know what they are yet, but I'll come up with 3. And that's the kind of thing a business coach needs to share so you don't make those mistakes. Sometimes instinct interferes with logic. We do things that are instinctive that aren't logical. And that's sometimes what a coach does is say, I know where your instinct is, but let me present this idea, which you'll get to after you skin your knee 3 times.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's really good. Really good advice. Having somebody to bounce that idea off of, a thought partner, brainstorming partner, that's valuable. That's valuable. Last question actually I have for you. I thought of this as I look across social media and see people jumping on trends, things that become viral. They think, oh, this must be the coolest thing to do, the next thing to do. This is somehow going to benefit me for whatever reason. How do you personally assess trends that emerge in your field? How do you know when something is worth incorporating into your business model? And how do you know when it's something you should literally just pass on? Like, don't pick up on that trend. Let that pass on.
Yeah. Well, and this is where we do get really directed to what I do. I have a filter. I have a mantra almost. Will it benefit my audience? I don't care if it benefits me. Will it benefit my audience? And maybe that's we could stretch that to for a business owner or an entrepreneur thinking, will that benefit my customer, my client? And I think when you put that filter on, it cleans things up because I don't want to be the guy who's afraid to try. I just don't want to try at the risk of harming my client, of taking something away from my audience. So sometimes I think I wrote a piece one time called "The Pursuit of Imperfection." I think it's okay when we make mistakes. I think we own up to them. We're humble about it. Again, I don't want to make a mistake that costs my client money or an opportunity, but to try something that doesn't work and I just don't want to be afraid of that. I want to be on the front end of it, not the back end of it. I've tried plenty of things that don't work. I just don't tell my audience about it while I'm trying it.
Right.
That again, that's an instinct that isn't logical. We think if we tell an audience, gee, this is my first time I've ever delivered this, but boy, you're going to get the best of me you can get. That's an instinct. A logic is no logic whatsoever. It tells an audience that you're not as prepared as they'd like to be. Usually an audience is paying for what your services are, and I would prefer to have somebody that might be a little bit more seasoned at this. Why are we outing our these types of things? But I'm not afraid of not being perfect. I don't want to be. I don't think perfection is relatable. I don't think it's identifiable. I think perfection can almost breed what can be perceived as arrogance. So why, just like the conversation we're having, I've said a few times and a few times, I stop for a sip of tea, and that's what makes this a wonderful conversation, because it's real.
I like that. I love that. Ah, this has been so insightful, Rob. Thank you so much for stopping by, for sharing just how to face your fears. I think that's one of the biggest things I'm going to take away is remembering the importance of stepping out, facing your fears. A success is still a success, no matter how long that lasts.
That's correct.
And I'm going to watch Defending Your Life, because now I have something to watch for this weekend, something I can
Right.
take away.
Good.
Oh, thank you so much. If you don't mind telling my audience again how they can follow you and how they can learn more about you.
Sure. It's very simple. My website is where I house everything. So it's just simply JOLLES.com, jolles.com. And kudos to you, Karen, because 99% of the people never get my last name right. And I don't even correct them. But you did it. You got Jolles right. That's how you say it. So it's jolles.com.
Awesome. I did cheat a little bit. I listened to several of your
Okay.
podcasts and replayed the intro over and over. Like, okay, one more time. What did he say?
How does that go? Nobody gets it right.
I did my
You did
homework.
your homework. Good for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, and looking forward to seeing you on our next meetup.
You bet. Thanks so much.
All right.